could feel the energy in the room, a nervous excitement. I could hear various languages being spoken and see the visible diversity. We were all so different, but there for a common purpose. We stood as they called our native countries one by one, and in that room in Charleston, South Carolina, on November 16th, 2023, we came together. Cultures converged into a shared celebration as we took our oath of citizenship. Together, we became Americans. I've lived in the United States since I was a teenager, but often felt like a bit of an imposter. We've all had those scenarios where we don't quite fit in. Moving from Toronto, Ontario, Canada to the southern United States when in high school was indeed culture shock. I didn't understand a lot of the social references. I didn't know anything about college football, and nobody knew a thing about hockey. Don't get me wrong, my path to arriving in this country was one of ease, of privilege. My dad pursued a great career opportunity, my mom retired from teaching, and my parents tried to make it all up to me by buying me a convertible. My white Cavalier Chevy Z24. Except in Canada, we pronounce the letter Z as Z. So naturally, I referred to my Cavalier Z24, and my new friends laughed, and it was just another example where I just didn't quite fit in. But over time, whether it was thanks to that convertible or not, upon achieving some success fitting in, my rebellious teenage plans to move back home to Canada diminished as my love for the South grew. I started to put down Southern roots. And while I decided to pursue a path to stay and live in the United States, and I was grateful to be able to choose to make a life here, over time, I began to feel a little bit more like that imposter. What does it mean to be a citizen? It was a bit of a cultural crisis of identity. Does one belong to a culture if no longer living there? Does one belong to a country if not a citizen? And these questions remained throughout the years, and the years flew by. And after nearly 3 decades of marriage to my American husband and raising 3 children for whom we've established dual citizenship, I decided it was time. I would pursue my American citizenship. Because after so many elections where I was unable to vote, I wanted to be able to have a voice in the process. And having 3 teenagers, 2 of them that were approaching the age of voting, how could I encourage them to pursue that opportunity if I had not taken advantage of the steps to get there? When I shared with others that I was embarking on this path to citizenship, I was a little surprised at some of the assumptions people made. Let me dispel some of those. Being from the same continent does not make the process easier. Being married to an American doesn't make it automatic. And being Canadian, I mean, your polite, quiet neighbor that lives to the north that you don't see often or frankly think much about, they don't just hand us a beer and welcome us in. Even for Canadians, the process is complex and arduous and rather daunting. There are many steps to the process on the path to naturalization. And as I began to consider embarking on this process, voting aside, what would it mean? I mean, to become a citizen, what would it truly mean? How do we even begin to define what it is to be a citizen? United States Citizenship and Immigration Services describes citizenship as a unique bond that unites people around civic ideals and a belief in the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. So that, to me, was a powerful sentiment with profound language that was powerful. So as I pondered what it is to be a citizen and embarked on these steps, the steps were pretty arduous. First, as I can imagine, this very lengthy form, all the information about your life in the United States and your citizenship status and whatnot. And then that form is followed up by an in-person interview at your closest United States Citizenship and Immigration Services office, which for us in Savannah is in Charleston. And the third step in the process, that requires a test. Part of that interview is a test. Applicants for citizenship through naturalization must pass a test to demonstrate understanding of the history, principles, civics, form of government of the United States. So let me ask you. The United States House of Representatives has how many voting members? 435. What is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. When was the Constitution written? 1787. Who was president during World War I? Woodrow Wilson. Name the two longest rivers in the United States. Missouri and the Mississippi. Okay. Well, those are only 5 of the 100 questions that applicants for citizenship must know and be prepared to answer 10 questions in an oral interview, verbally. So there's no multiple choice. I got a 10 out of 10. But was I just enjoying testing my friends of their history of civics and form of government? Maybe a little. But the process of itself, the gravity of citizenship, truly was heavy to me in a really positive way. Truly considering what it is to be a citizen, no longer feeling like an imposter and being this close to being part of this club and feeling more of this belonging. This was powerful to me. And of course, even as stepping into these steps of the process, this arduous and complex path, we have to assume one is eligible to even begin the process, right? And some of those eligibility criteria are straightforward according to one's naturalization status and whatnot. But other requirements to be eligible to even apply for citizenship took me by surprise. One in particular, to be eligible to pursue citizenship as a naturalized citizen, one must demonstrate attachment to the principles of the Constitution and be well disposed to the good order and happiness of the United States. The good order and happiness of the United States. What could that look like? What could happen if we all collectively were positively inclined towards our good order and happiness of the United States? And so while I pondered this, I wanted to scream it from the rooftops. Did y'all know this? Did you know this is what we're supposed to be doing? This is what it is to be a citizen. And as I prepared and I really dove into learning this, I loved it. I embraced it. And it was so heavy to me, the power of what it is and could be to be a citizen. Woven throughout all of the information that I learned was also the rights and benefits. There are many rights and benefits to being an American. Sure, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, the right to vote. But if citizenship includes that definition of a belief in the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, are we all doing everything we can to protect every person's rights and freedoms and benefits guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution? It's easy, perhaps, for me as a white woman from Canada to describe the path to citizenship as an exciting and inspiring process. That is not everyone's experience. So perhaps this is where the responsibilities come in, because this took me by surprise. To be a citizen, we are responsible, sure, for the things that are obvious. Follow the laws, state, local, federal laws, pay your taxes, serve on a jury when called. But there are other responsibilities of citizenship that I learned that truly took me by surprise, including stay informed of and participate in issues affecting your local community. It's a responsibility of citizenship. Participate in the democratic process. It's a responsibility of citizenship. And respect the rights, beliefs, and opinions of others is a responsibility of citizenship. How are we doing? Many of you were likely born as citizens of this nation, and I wonder if you've ever had cause to consider what it is to be a citizen, or had the tremendous privilege to speak those commitments out loud. I think back to those people in that room on November 16th, 2023, we were part of a large group. United States Citizenship and Immigration Services welcomed 878,500 new naturalized citizens in fiscal year 2023. Every one of us learned about the rights and the responsibilities of citizenship. And thinking of those people in that shared celebration on November 16th, I think about the impeccably well-dressed man from Nigeria that sat beside me, who had the biggest, brightest smile that never left his face. I think about the enthusiastic young woman from Venezuela sitting right behind me that couldn't help herself but let out an enthusiastic yes periodically. And I think about the petite, elderly woman from Vietnam that sat down the row from me, holding hands with her daughter and quietly weeping. Every one of us in that room learned the rights and the responsibilities of what it is to be a citizen, and on that day certainly seemed well disposed to the good order and happiness of the United States. Some of us cried as we stood and sang the national anthem together as citizens for the first time. I've never heard a more emotionally charged, albeit very poorly sung, rendition of the national anthem in my life. This November, my daughters and I will together, for the first time, exercise our right to vote in a presidential election. We get to do that together. And we could say, one person is just one voice, one vote. But one person is one voice and one vote. If citizenship is described as a unique bond that unites people around civic ideals and a belief in the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, can't this unite us no matter who we vote for? It's an admittedly optimistic perspective in a world that often seems broken. But wasn't the convergence of cultures and voices part of the fabric integral to building this nation? So I ask you, can we not just exercise our rights? Let's unite around our responsibilities, because we are American.